This plant used to stop people in their tracks. My biggest, boldest Calathea Orbifolia. The leaves were massive. That silvery shimmer, it was totally unreal. But then it all changed. Thrips. And not just a few. They hit hard and she hasn't been the same since. She's alive. I'm doing everything I can to help her recover, but I'm going to be honest with you. It could take years for her to look her former self again, if she ever does. And that's why I'm doing this. I got myself a new plant. I'm not giving up on my old plant. I'm starting fresh. A second Orbifolia, my plant insurance policy. Because right now, there's an Orbifolia-shaped gap in my life and I need to fill it. This is my new girl. She's healthy, she's gorgeous, and she's about to start her life in Leca. I'm going to walk you through every step of getting her out of soil into a clean semi-hydroponic setup, but not just any methods. For Calatheas, or geopersias as they're known these days, I always take the slow road. It's the only way I've found to keep them stable through the transition. I'm going to start by taking this plant out of that pot and getting all that organic matter off. Just look at this gorgeous baby. She looks absolutely beautiful. Those leaves are magnificent and completely to die for. So this plant is living in a, maybe 16 centimeter pot. And I just give that pot a gentle squeeze. Oh, shucks. See, turn it around this way. And you can see the dirt is already starting to come out. And, it is quite soft in there. And there we go. Ooh, look at that gorgeous root there. Looking beautiful. Looking absolutely beautiful. So that is what we are working with. This is my plant over here. I am going to take out as much of that organic matter out of this plant as I can. And to do that, we are now going to go outside and I am going to have heck of a time trying to sort this out. Okay, I'm back from outside and this is the root system that I'm working with. There is very little organic matter left on these roots and they are just looking brilliant. But here, there's something here. They just look beautiful. That's it. I use my hose to remove as much of the organic matter off those roots as I can. And I use the jet setting of my hose to get rid of as much of that organic matter that's stuck on those roots as I can. I also take the opportunity to use the shower setting to remove some of the dirt off the leaves of my beautiful plant. The next step that we're going to do, I'm using the long method for my plant. And that's because I want to give my plant the most gentle transition to semi-hydroponics as I can. So I've got this gorgeous looking bottle, vase, whatever you want to call it. I got this one from IKEA. I'll have the link in the description below. And I've placed my plant inside there. I like this one because it's quite big actually. I don't know if I want to take off these bottom leaves. I might just leave them. It's quite big and it sits my plant really nicely there. I'll pull down my table so you can see that a bit clearly. There we go. And in this tub, I have my special sauce, which is made up of Clonex clone solution and root zone. And I'm going to put this in there. So there's quite a fair bit that's going to go in there. Oh, could I be any more messy? There we go. So just below the crown of the plant or just about where the crown is. So that's about there. I'm not filling it all the way up to the top. That's not really necessary. Just put a little bit more. There we go. So I'm going to be changing this solution every 2 weeks. So this is not a very big plant, so I can actually change everything out. So I will take this to the sink, throw it out, and put more. But the most important thing that has to happen here is this next step. So I am going to put in here an air stone. I'm going to connect this air stone to an air pump, and I'm going to have this nutrient solution oxygenated all the time. And that's just to allow the roots of my plant to grow as quickly as is possible. And once I get a lot of root growth on there is when, and only when, I am going to transition this plant from this mixture into the Leca clay balls. And of course, I will show you what that looks like when we get to that time. So I'm just going to turn on my air pump so you can see what's happening. Alrighty, you can hear that buzzing, and my nutrient solution is now bubbling away. And I'm going to put this plant in a lovely, bright, warm spot, and it's going to have that air stone bubbling away 24/7. And I'll show you what that's going to look like in a few weeks. I would imagine things will have changed. I'll see you then. It's been over 2 months since I put my Calathea Orbifolia in to do the long method, and that is what she looks like there. So obviously the fact that this plant is still alive is a big plus. That's the air stone that I used to keep it bubbling away, and look at that. Those roots are looking absolutely fantastic, and you can see the beginnings of new growth on this plant. So I'm now going to move it from the long method straight into Leca, and there are a few things that are telling me that this plant is now ready. So I've got a lot of these new roots that are coming through, what people like to call water roots, right? They're just new roots. They're roots that are used to being in the hydro environment, and you can see how long those are. It's probably about 1 inch or 2 long. So those, and they've also got secondary roots as well. So those roots are ready to go in, and the fact that this plant is starting to give me new leaves as well is really telling me that it is ready to go. And because of that, I am now going to put it in the Leca clay balls, because I don't want to start disturbing that plant once it starts getting new leaves, and then I have to start taking it out and putting it in the Leca and potentially damaging those leaves. So we will get to it. I'm going to use my Lechuza Classico LS Classico, I don't know, Classico thing pot to put my plant up in. That's a pretty decent size. It'll allow my plant to keep growing while it's developing in the Leca clay balls. And with my Lechuza planter, I've actually put additional ventilation holes in here because I like to have that additional ventilation to my roots. But I've also created a lovely hole here where I'm going to put my air stone through. Now, this is the air stone that I was using for this plant earlier, and I still want to have that air stone in that nutrient solution just to help the plant with that transition. So I'm going to have that thread through there, and the air stone is going to be sitting in the reservoir. But one of the things that is a little bit tricky when you're using a Lechuza pot or pots that look like this, where you've got feet at the bottom, and you've got, when you look at this here, it's got little slits on these feet. And in theory, that's the only place where your Leca clay balls have contact with the reservoir. So I tend to think this is probably not adequate enough. So I've made little holes at the bottom of my pot where I'm going to put my wick through, and that will allow the nutrient solution that's in the reservoir to move from there up to the Leca that's going to be in my pot. So the wick that I'm using, let me see, is simply rope from a microfiber mop. Nothing complex, nothing untoward, and you can easily find that. So you can just use a rope, or you can use a piece of microfiber cloth. So because I did not make my holes large enough, I'm just going to use this to thread it through. Oh, there we go. That is my wick going through. And that is my wick there as well. And what you can see happening is these wicks are going to be in that reservoir that's going to be in the pot that's on the outside, and then I've got that wick there that's going to go in and amongst my leca. So I've got some leca clay balls that I prepared earlier, so it's all washed and soaked in my nutrient solution and is ready to nourish that plant. So I'll get my leca and put a little bit in my pot. So what I then do is pull up my wick so that it's sitting on top of my leca, and I'll just put a little bit more leca on top of the wick. Okay, and as you can see, you can't see the wick there at all. And I'll grab my plant and I'll just sort of see where my plant is sitting, and that is a good height. That's exactly what I'm looking for, which is great. So it's deep in the pot, but not too deep, and it's not too high up that it's not being supported by the leca clay balls. But before I do that, I will, you can see there's a big hole down there, big hole, and that's where the water level indicator goes. So I'll put that in first, because if I start putting my leca in there, it is all going to start falling out. And that is not going to be any fun. There we go. That's my water level indicator attached there. And that is my plant sitting there. And I just fill that up with leca. Okay, that is my plant looking really good in its new pot, and the wick dangling down there looking fabulous as well. Now I need to think about how I am going to put my air stone. I hope I didn't cover that hole. Can't quite remember where I put that. Oh, there we are. It comes, that hole is over here. So I'm gonna have my air stone coming out at the back there. I want it going in through there, and this is going to go to my air pump. And this is going to go into my reservoir. So grab my pot. And that goes in there. And that, I gotta make sure that all goes in so that it takes up that space. There, that's all in. None of that cable is being nipped by the pot, and that will go to my air pump. And the next thing that I'm gonna do is put my nutrient solution in my pot. Just fill my pot with that nutrient solution, and that is Clonex clone solution that I use. And I'm gonna use that probably for the next month or two, just to help that plant get going and get those roots going. And then I'll switch that over to foliage focus. And you can see my nutrient solution is just about the maximum level. So this is my new Calathea Orbifolia, which is well on its way to becoming a gorgeous plant, as big as the plant that I had before. That is still in recovery. So I'm going to put this back in the bright, warm spot, keep that air stone going, and I will keep you posted in the months coming ahead to see how she's getting on. It's been slightly over a month since I transferred my plant from the solution into the Leca clay balls, and today I'm going to show you what she looks like. That is my gorgeous beauty over here. And I love how, this plant is still alive and the leaves are all still looking really, really good. I haven't had any leaf loss from the time I moved it from the nutrient solution into the Leca. But the really, really most amazing thing is there is so much growth activity in this pot. There are so many new leaves coming through. I mean, if I had to count them, I would say there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 new leaves coming through there. It looks just absolutely beautiful. So it's still got the Clonex clone solution in there, and probably now that I'm seeing all this growth, I'm now going to switch it over to Foliage Focus, which is going to be the maintenance nutrient. So if you're not using these nutrients, whatever it is you're using as your main nutrient or fertilizer, that's what you would continue with. So yeah, I'm just gonna put this in a lovely, bright, warm spot. Spring is here, growth is going on, and I'll probably show this to you again in maybe 6 months, maybe at the end of summer, so you can see what it looks like and how it's come from what it looks like today to what it's going to be in the future. I wish you all the best in transitioning your Calathea Orbifolias, or indeed any other Calathea, which I would do in exactly the same way. Now go watch this next video that shows you how I moved my massive Calathea Orbifolia, not this one, my old one, when it was so much bigger, and I potted it up into a massive pot. I'll see you there.